11번. 다음 글에 드러난 아이의 심경 변화로 가장 적절한 것은?
One night, my family was having a party with a couple from another city who had two daughters. The girls were just a few years older than I, and I played lots of fun games together with them. The father of the family had an amusing, jolly, witty character. And I had a memorable night full of laughter and joy. While we laughed, joked, and had our dinner, the TV suddenly broadcast an air attack, and a screeching siren started to scream, announcing the red situation. We all stopped dinner, and we squeezed into the basement. The siren kept screaming and the roar of planes was heard in the sky. The terror of war was overwhelming. Shivering with fear, I murmured a panicked prayer that this desperate situation would end quickly.
12번. 다음 글의 상황에 나타난 분위기로 가장 적절한 것은?
Megan looked up and saw angry gray clouds rolling across the water. The storm had turned and was coming her way. She stood up and reached for her sandals. That's when she spotted the dog splashing around in the middle of the lake. At first she thought he was playing. She watched for a second or two, then realized the dog wasn't playing. He was trying to keep from going under. With her heart pounding like a trip hammer, she ran into the water and started swimming toward the dog. Before she got to the dog, the rain started. She saw the dog, and seconds later he was gone. She pushed forward frantically, her arms reaching out in long strokes, her legs kicking harder and faster.
13. 2022년 9월 19번. 다음 글에 나타난 아이의 심경 변화로 가장 적절한 것은?
There was no choice next morning but to turn in my private reminiscence of Belleville. 2 days passed before Mr. Flegel returned the graded papers, and he returned everyone's but mine. I was anxiously expecting for a command to report to Mr. Flegel immediately after school for discipline when I saw him lift my paper from his desk and rap for the class's attention. Now, boys, he said, I want to read you an essay. This is titled, The Art of Eating Spaghetti. And he started to read my words. He was reading my words out loud to the entire class. What's more, the entire class was listening attentively. Then somebody laughed, then the entire class was laughing. And not in contempt and ridicule, but with open-hearted enjoyment. I did my best to avoid showing pleasure. But what I was feeling was pure ecstasy at this startling demonstration that my words had the power to make people laugh.
14. 2018년 6월 20번. 다음 글에 드러난 마사미의 심경 변화로 가장 적절한 것은?
While backpacking through Costa Rica, Masami found herself in a bad situation. She had lost all of her belongings, and had only $5 in cash. To make matters worse, because of a recent tropical storm, all telephone and internet services were down. She had no way to get money, so decided to go knocking door to door, explaining that she needed a place to stay, until she could contact her family back in Japan to send her some money. Everybody told her they had no space or extra food, and pointed her in the direction of the next house. It was already dark when she arrived at a small roadside restaurant. The owner of the restaurant heard her story and really empathized. Much to her delight, Masami was invited in. The owner gave her some food, and allowed her to stay there until she could contact her parents.
15. 2019년 3월 19번. 다음 글에 드러난 아이의 심경 변화로 가장 적절한 것은?
Something inside told me that by now someone had discovered my escape. It chilled me greatly to think that they would capture me and take me back to that awful place. So, I decided to walk only at night until I was far from the town. After 3 nights walking, I felt sure that they had stopped chasing me. I found a deserted cottage and walked into it. Tired, I lay down on the floor and fell asleep. I awoke to the sound of a faraway church clock, softly ringing 7 times, and noticed that the sun was slowly rising. As I stepped outside, my heart began to pound with anticipation and longing. The thought that I could meet Evelyn soon lightened my walk.
16. 2022년 11월 19번. 다음 글에 드러난 아이의 심경 변화로 가장 적절한 것은?
Dan and I were supposed to make a presentation that day. Right after the class started, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Dan saying, I can't make it on time. There's been a car accident on the road. I almost fainted. What should I do? Dan didn't show up before our turn. And soon I was standing in front of the whole class. I managed to finish my portion, and my mind went blank for a few seconds, wondering what to do. Hold yourself together. I quickly came to my senses, and worked through Dan's part of the presentation as best as I could. After a few moments, I finished the entire presentation on my own. Only then did the tension vanish. I could see our professor's beaming face.
17. 2023년 3월 19번. 다음 글에 드러난 이저벨의 심경 변화로 가장 적절한 것은?
On opening day, Isabel arrives at the cafe very early with nervous anticipation. She looks around the cafe, but she can't shake off the feeling that something is missing. As she sets out cups, spoons, and plates, Isabel's doubts grow. She looks around, trying to imagine what else she could do to make the cafe perfect. But nothing comes to mind. Then, in a sudden burst of inspiration, Isabel grabs her paintbrush and transforms the blank walls into landscapes, adding flowers and trees. As she paints, her doubts begin to fade. Looking at her handiwork, which is beautifully done, she is certain that the cafe will be a success. Now, success is not exactly guaranteed, she thinks to herself. But I'll definitely get there.
18. 2023년 6월 19번. 다음 글에 드러난 에스터의 심경 변화로 가장 적절한 것은?
Esther stood up as soon as she heard the hum of a hover engine outside. Mail, she shouted and ran down the third set of stairs. And swung open the door. It was pouring now, but she ran out into the rain. She was facing the mailbox. There was a single, unopened letter inside. She was sure this must be what she was eagerly waiting for. Without hesitation, she tore open the envelope. She pulled out the paper and unfolded it. The letter said, "Thank you for applying to our company. We would like to invite you to our internship program. We look forward to seeing you soon." She jumped up and down and looked down at the letter again. She couldn't wait to tell this news to her family.
19. 2023년 9월 19번. 다음 글에 드러난 아이의 심경 변화로 가장 적절한 것은?
My 10-year-old appeared, in desperate need of a quarter. A quarter? What on earth do you need a quarter for? My tone bordered on irritation. I didn't want to be bothered with such a trivial demand. There's a garage sale up the street. And there's something I just gotta have. It only costs a quarter. Please? I placed a quarter in my son's hand. Moments later, a little voice said, "Here, Mommy, this is for you." I glanced down at the hands of my little son, and saw a 4-inch cream-colored statue of two small children hugging one another. Inscribed at their feet were words that read, "It starts with L, ends with E, and in between are O and V." As I watched him race back to the garage sale, I smiled with a heart full of happiness. That 25-cent garage sale purchase brought me a lot of joy.